Okay, yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can see you and we can hear you. So the floor is yours. You are a representation of the Committee on Industry, Research and Energy of the European Parliament. You come from the Netherlands. That is a strong nation on cybersecurity. Your police is one of the best in Europe, is well recognized. So you have all the rights to give your impression, your hints to this community. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me from the Netherlands. But it's also good that you say we're a community, because this is how I regard it as well. If you ask me for who do this work, let me just, that's better without the translation. So let me say what motivates me as a lawmaker here in Brussels. It's the cybersecurity community, because I stem from that community. It's very important to notice that I was director for cybersecurity at the Dutch Ministry of Defense. And it's not important to notice, but it's like I know the community. I know what their needs are. I know how it functions, how it doesn't function. I'm so glad to be here in Brussels and working on that legislation. So in order for us to get that cybersecurity community going again, because I will come back to that later. I've worked with the Italians a lot. I've seen very intelligent people, part of the G7, able to think big, creative. I was impressed by what you did, but I would really like to congratulate you with your new agency, like the previous speakers has done before. I would love to come and visit one day to see how you got things going. Listen, I can't say anything as rapporteur on the NIS2, Europe's new cybersecurity legislation, without touching a bit on Ukraine and what has happened, because I'm following it day and night. You're probably doing the same. And let me say a couple of things. I think first we should distinguish, we've seen some old phenomena really being emphasized and strengthened, and some new phenomena. So the old phenomena we know, right? That's the wiper malware. I think everyone expected such a sabotage-like attack on Ukraine. I think everyone also expected DDoS attacks. We see them occurring by the Russians against us in Ukraine. That's easily recognizable. Ransomware gangs like Conti going for it. Very interesting to see the link with the Russian services there, but also the VSAT company, the satellite internet service provider in California, which was broken down yesterday in large parts of Ukraine and the rest of Europe, also sabotage. I mean, this is what we've seen in the past years. This is what we were prepared for. This is the old phenomena. But the new phenomena is that Ukraine actually mobilized worldwide hackers and people from the cybersecurity community, being able to contribute to the goal of the Ukrainian armed forces. And many people want to do something, contribute food, contribute medicine, or giving shelter to refugees. All fine, but some hackers want to contribute too. And what the Ukrainians did was massively organizing, mobilizing that hacker community. And I think it's the first time in history that we've seen that power. We've seen anonymous, etc., but on this scale is, I think, very new. I would also like to really get your attention straight to something I will be negotiating in the next month on the NIS2, which is on the border gate protocol. We should be able to see Russia diverting traffic from Ukraine to their own internet exchanges, sniffing that traffic, and seeing whether they can use it and exploit it for military gains or espionage. And it's really important that we get more secure routing protocols all around Europe through our internet exchanges and data centers. And we can use, for example, Resource API or other protocols, but we should do something about the routing protocols, because BGP hijacking, that's something we should end that really soon, and we can do that with legislation. And I am really calling for every member state to go with my amendment on that. Now, listen, this is Ukraine. We might expect some spillover. We will see what happened in 2017 with NotPetya, but we have to recognize the threat for a NotPetya spillover will be less than 2017, because they had the NSA exploit at that time for SMB service, which was, I mean, very thoroughly. See, I have to speak slower from the translators. I'm sorry. So they had an exploit at that time. I don't expect them for that having that sort of luck right now again. So I don't think that will be on the stage. What we do need to do, it's the last remark I'd like to make for all Italian, but also other European businesses. You check your connections with Ukraine. You check your connections with your Ukrainian plants, customers, others in Ukraine, and you segment that from the rest of your network and you monitor it. You see what happens. So you mitigate the risk of a spillover effect. Okay, that's Ukraine. Now back to the NIS2. Extremely important. As rapporteur, we've seen a huge increase in cybercrime incidents, a doubling in my country in 2019, a tripling worldwide in ransomware in 2020, according to the FBI, and new spikes last year. And I think that we are, like this being said, being attacked on an industrial scale, and we need a more of an industrial approach to counter that. And that is exactly what the NIS is also about. Let me name what we will be introducing in Europe, new, revolutionary in the world, which no one has, and why it will be a success. The first is the great German word Chefsache is being introduced on several levels, and I'll explain. Chefsache means when Angela Merkel gets to decide on a certain point, it's Chefsache. It means the CEO is involved. That's what will make happen in Europe. Cybersecurity measures across Europe will be throughout entities will be invoked because the CEO will be personally liable. So if you neglect time after time, there will be fines. Now, what fine will there be? Well, a fine probably of about 2% of your yearly revenue. And why is that? Because ransomware gangs ask 2% of your yearly revenue as a reward. So then comes the calculation. Will I pay the Russian ransomware criminals 2%? Will I pay a fine 2%? Or shall I just invest it in cybersecurity? That is the aim of this legislation, making it Chefsache. So it's just ordinary measures you have to take. Backups, password management, the laws. There will be audits. There will be two categories, probably, essential and important entities, and we will make sure that they implement it. And this is something that was lacking in the previous legislation. So we have to make sure that all sectors, sector by sector, we go by the essential entities to make sure they heighten their security posture. Now, the second point, 160,000 new entities will be designated in this new legislation, probably. We're still negotiating, might be a little bit less, might be a little bit more, but some 160,000. It entails hospitals, energy, telecommunications, but also cloud, MSPs, managed service providers, managed security service providers, and the lot. People who provide essential services to our customers who are the civilians of the European Union. It's very important. Third, we will ask them to report incidents, threats. We create an ecosystem with that. And that ecosystem is of importance to me as negotiator on this file, because I want a service-orientated operational government. We will not just be getting back and forth reactively, like we have an incident and we share information. That's not enough. If you have information, you have a responsibility to act. You have to do something proactive with it. I want a new government. I want a new phase in the European security architecture. I want it to be proactive and not just reactive. And there's many proposals in that legislation as well. And last but not least, the cybersecurity community. The CSIRTs are, of course, central in this piece of legislation. They gather all the information. They disseminate it. They advise. They do prevention. They are the point of contact for you as an important entity. They are the people who would gather all of the knowledge that is there inside of a country. But it's very important that this community is also functioning, let's say, surrounding these CSIRTs. And that is what has been lacking. So what I've mentioned previously, my customer, my day-to-day motivation is the cybersecurity community. And they are afraid that their data, that they can't share data because of GDPR concerns, because of liability concerns. And they are sometimes afraid this might be something personal data. Am I liable here? And what I'd like to do is give a clear legal basis. Yes, you can. You have responsibility to share information if it can prevent attacks. Yes, we want you to collaborate as a private sector with the government. And yes, government, we want you to collaborate with the private sector and with other sectors around Europe. So the internal market, like Johan Lepassard just mentioned, will be better protected. That is the legal basis for this. And I very much agree that if they are satisfied with this legislation, I am satisfied, okay? Now, at the end of May, I'm trying to make conclusions on this piece of legislation and get it to the member states as soon as possible, because we cannot be too, we have to act fast. Joe Biden is making emergency legislation, and as we know, if it's a waterbed effect. So if the hackers will not go to America, they will come to Europe, and we don't want to be too attractive for criminals and states to come and do their cyber operations here. So we have to be fast. And I agree with what has been said on EU institutions. Either this NIS applies to those institutions, or they will make something themselves. It's very important that we have that in place as well. Next, on the last minute I'll take, we have a Cyber Resiliency Act coming up, which will not look at entities and how they guard themselves, but also on products, so on hard and software. All in all, the cybersecurity posture of Europe is being strengthened significantly. And last but not least, I would say we should not just look at the favorable conditions in which hackers can operate and can hack us, like we've just seen, but also who is exploiting it, who is behind these attacks. And if it's Russians, and they have a safe haven, and the Russian state is sponsoring them, and we can't get to them, we should be able to get to them. And this is also Chefsache for Ursula von der Leyen, for Charles Michel and Josep Borrell, to make sure they communicate this to countries. If they offer a safe haven to criminals, that's over. This is no longer a niche market. This is Chefsache for all our CEOs, but this is also Chefsache for the European Union as such. And that's how I'd like to conclude. Thank you very much, Italy. Enjoy the day. Good luck.
Really, thank you to you for all your words, your positive expectation. Thank you very much.